Hello, welcome back to my channel where I talk about Medium and a lot of other things. So, in the true spirit of a writer, today I have taken some notes just to remind myself of the things I wanted to cover and try to prevent myself from rambling during this video. Uh, with writing, it's easier, right? Because you brainstorm and then you can come up with your first rough draft, and then from there you chisel it down, make it make sense. So something can start out with just like super stream of consciousness type material and then progress to a finished product with points that flow one after the other. It's great. I have gotten better at that with writing, but not that much at talking. So that's my next little hill to climb. So today what I want to talk about is why I turned off my Medium comments. Um, in on Medium, you have the option to go to your post after you've published it, and you can either hide comments or you can just stop the conversation altogether, which is essentially equal to turning off comments. Nobody can comment on your post. Um, Sometimes I will hide comments, but for me, it's not that different from turning them off because if my intention is to go and hide the comments, it means I'm not going to look at them. So I just opt usually to close the conversation, i.e., stop comments altogether. And I have received a few emails about that from people who still had something to say about my article. Not always negative, sometimes just like a response that they really wanted to communicate to me as the writer of the article. And in that, in many of those responses, I'll be told by the commenter, "Hey, I really wanted to put this at the bottom of your post, but I couldn't." And what's up with that? So here's the thing. I I've talked about trolls in my past video, and for me, I I'm somebody who really likes to protect my energy. And as I've gotten older, I have realized how imperative it is to learn how to protect your energy. I do a lot of things. And I'm not saying that as like a braggy, like, oh, I do a lot of things, but like really, I do a lot of things. So from the moment that I wake up way too early to the moment that I go to sleep way too late, I'm just like one after the other, thing after thing after thing. And for me, to be able to accomplish my goals and develop good habits, it's been necessary to really cut out the noise or the energy sucking things that I can't have in my life, because if I do have those things in my life, then I can't do everything that I really want to do in my 30s. And that's one way that my 20s were very different from how my 30s are shaping out to be. In my 20s, I actually remember in college, I would walk 15, 20, 25 minutes from where I was living at the time to go see somebody or hang out. And when I'd get there, sometimes I'd even think that the walk was more fun than the actual experience of going to see that person or go to that party or whatever. During the walk, I would listen to my music, get lost in my thoughts, enjoy the fresh breeze. But also, I would be spending that amount of time, hemorrhaging that amount of time to go to this like meh social event or something. And that was just one way where I wasn't really mindfully utilizing my time and my energy. So in this decade of my life, that's like completely different, and it has to be. It has to be different because in my 20s, the decisions that I made, some of which had real ramifications slash negative consequences, they affected my 30s. So when I realized that cause effect relationship between how you spend your time in your 20s and what your life looks like in your early 30s, I became really interested in spending this decade making really good decisions so that when I move on to my 40s, I can be in the position that I foresee myself wanting to be in. Um, but I've strayed a little bit from the main topic. But this does come back. It folds nicely into the topic of like comments and people's expectations of my accessibility or a writer's accessibility in time. So As a writer on Medium, I write a variety of different types of writing. I write poetry, I write short stories, essays, scientific articles, you name it. I've experimented with it. And for poetry and short stories, I tend to leave my comment section open because my experience has been that most of the time I will not get egregious comments on that material. Sometimes I still do, and what I mean by egregious is, for example, if I write a story about a couple having marital problems, then some duffer will come into the comment section and say something like really unnecessarily sexual or inappropriate, and I don't want to deal with that. Like I just don't want to have to read that in my publication on my page that I created. I don't want to read that material. So if it happens often enough, I would also turn off comments on my short stories. Um, but generally, for me, the most important place to disable comments has been my essays and my articles, where I reference myself or I talk about feminism. And that's not, so let me take a step back. A lot of people, when they hear me say this, a lot of people think, oh, well, this is, you don't want to have a conversation. You don't want to have a debate. You don't want to talk, blah, blah, blah. Like, how constructive is it really to have a conversation with somebody you've never met, you've never sat across from, you've never breathed the same air as, you don't even know, right? How constructive is that, right? And many times the type of comment that's getting left on those posts, it hasn't been the type where it's like, oh yeah, I should think about this. It's just been an attack, right? And I am not the kind of person who's just willy-nilly writing material. I'm very thoughtful. I am thinking about what I am writing. So if I am spending the time to really think about things, and it's not just this day, right? Especially with feminist material, I've had to think about it for my life. So for 30 plus years, I have had to observe and think about my surroundings and how they marginalize my existence. I have had to contemplate misogyny because I have been the recipient of it. I have been thinking about this stuff for a long time. So when I am faced with a comment that's like, blah blah blah, you're so wrong, and then a litany of profanity, many times gendered, many times proving my points that I've made in the article. um, I don't really feel like I want to respond to that person because I don't think anything good will come out of it, and I'm probably right. And I create a system based on probability. I'm not going to go out of my way hoping that one day I will change a troll's mind. This is not a made for TV movie. But I want to now move into the expectation of replying. This is one area where I also think that um, many times people believe that you owe them something because you're writing online or because you are on social media. You owe them your time. And I don't want that sort of transactional relationship to get in the way of my writing process. I I very much value um, the fact that people are spending time reading my material. And I thank you for reading my material, but I'm not making it because I want likes. If I wanted to do that, there would have been easier ways for me as a woman to go and find ways to get external validation. What I'm hoping is that the people who are reading my material are actually gaining something from it. Like they're walking away with maybe a new thought to chew on, or maybe I said something in a way that they hadn't been able to understand before, and now they do. Just something, or maybe they just felt like somebody stood in solidarity with the thoughts in their heads. Whatever it is, that's really what I'm trying to do as a writer. But for me to be able to do that, there has to be a separation between what I'm hearing in the comments and what I'm creating. There has to be that separation so that I can continue to write my truth. And when I say my truth, again, not just like stuff that just popped into my head. No, I'm talking about things that have been growing and just burgeoning in the space of my mind that I am now giving life to on paper, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. So I cannot, I cannot be held, I cannot be constrained by this expectation that I will reply. It would make me a worse writer, and it would make the noise of people louder than the noise of myself. The noise of myself, the sound of my voice in my head. And as a writer, that is very, very detrimental to my process. So that's why I stay away from that expectation. And then on Medium, one other thing I found, and this again, this is not Medium's fault. So I just want to say this. This is not, I don't think people on Medium, I don't think the Medium creators were like, yes, we definitely want to get pyramid scheming. But I did see some people, especially when I first started writing, I saw this trend of like, if you're part of this sub community on Medium or this group on Medium, and if somebody likes your post or somebody supports your writing, then you should should go and like their stuff and support their writing and be like, oh, this is amazing. And they're like, oh, you're amazing and all this stuff. And uh, I again, it goes back to that point I made earlier. I don't think that is conducive to my writing process. There are actually times where people will write things and I feel honestly that I want to communicate with them how much it meant to me, but I don't expect for that to mean that now they will also have to give me accolades on whatever I've written, right? Different writing styles appeal to different people. Different messages reach different people depending on what they're receptive to and where they are in their lives. So I don't hold that expectation for others, and I certainly do not cater to that expectation when people make the mistake of holding me responsible for it. Um, and responsible to it. Wow. Okay. See, so much easier when you can just edit things out. I guess I could do it in the video too, but I'm lazy. So to sum up a couple of the points I just made, I have a creative process, and I think as a writer, I think many writers have creative processes, and it's just so important to construct your process as it involves commenting back, as it involves engaging with your audience, however it is that is getting you in the right headspace to produce the writing you want to produce. And as a writer, I would argue that that's the most important thing you're there to do, right? Um, Strategically, there's a lot to be said in the domain of branding, and I think that that's a different conversation that I definitely am not. I'm not the point person for that because I don't. Branding scares me. Um, but yeah. And then finally, to close this video out, what does the future hold in terms of me opening up my comment section or me changing my perspective on my philosophies? So I don't think in the near term I will change just because it's looking like life is going to keep getting busier and busier. But also, it's working for me right now. And in the future, if something changes and I feel like, okay, now I can go and be more communicative with audience members, or I can engage with them with more frequency, uh, I would definitely be open to that. I try not to hold my position on certain processes as like, I will always do it this way, or I'll never do it this way. One of the things I've learned through writing is there has to be a level of flexibility that remains, and there has to be a level of openness to responsive change based on what you need, based on what the moment needs. And yeah, so I think as long as we keep that at the forefront of our writing process, that we need to make sure it's healthy for us, and also we need to leave room for responsive change if the need arises. Yeah, I think we can go really far. Anyway, uh, I'm wondering if the notes helped in my reduce my rambling. I don't know, but yeah, I would tell you to feel free to leave a comment on that, but I don't know if my comment section for this video is going to be open. All right. Well, until next time.